Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is part one of the making of Master Can't Stop Me, which was featuring none like Joshua, or NLJ, on vocals. This track was a good time. Of all the tracks that are on the R Silent EEP, this is probably the simplest in terms of technical requirements of how it created, but there were still some interesting things that I did to make what happened happen. This is part one, which is going to be sort of the arrangement and elements, where we're going to go over generally sort of what everything is. Part two will be focusing primarily on sound design, and part three will be focusing on mixing and mastering. So let's go over what's happening. The main bass instrument in this track is all made out of one thing. It's actually, here's some of the original pieces over here, and then I recorded it out. I'll cover that in the sound design part about how that actually worked out, but it is all sourced from the same bit. And the arrangement worked more or less the same way that it does in most of my current tracks, where I'll render out the audio and then use the slip tool to kind of poke around to find the bit that I like, that I want out of each particular spot. Unlike the R Silent, the track, this one was a little bit more deliberate. There were some things that I did that I actually did on purpose, which was not quite as random as that track was. Which the making of for that track will be coming up pretty shortly. I'm doing these in order of the album list. What was special about sort of how this is a bit of a preview of the mixing, but I did do ducking, but I did not use sidechaining. I actually did it manually. That's what this red automation is here that we're looking at. In case you didn't know, you can actually stack stuff, and you can work on them individually through groups of channels and different kinds of clips. The red here is just the sidechaining I did manually, and because the beat is more or less the same the entire time, it wasn't that complex to just copy automation over and over again. The beat itself, this is actually, a lot of people are going to find this absolutely hilarious, but the inspiration for this track was DJ Snake's remix of Turn Down for What, or Turn Down for, I forget who made Turn Down for What, but it was Turn Down for What that I had wanted to make this track. Specifically, if you go all the way to the end of that track and listen to the outro, it should become clear, like what the main inspiration for that was. I kind of wanted to make something trappy, but I didn't really want to go full trap, so I have done neuro trap, which I am not the first to have done that. There are a couple, there was a Joe Ford track that I thought was kind of cool. Also a Emperor track, which was pretty great as well. That's the inspiration for this kind of thing. So there's that one main bass. There's also that ARP that happens, which is pretty hip hoppy kind of thing to have in the background. I have this sort of really pitchy super soft thing going on, and that's its volume is being modulated over and over again, and that kind of thing. Everything down here was the contribution that Josh offered to this track, which includes a snare reinforcement, various ad-libs along with the vocals, plus actual, I'm the fucking truth. That was him. He was just kind of like, he knew that I was trying to go for this sort of trappy element, and he had more experience with that than I did, so he put those in there, and it was a good call. His vocals themselves were not so incredibly layered, but there are some layers.
Listen to the sirens.
We have the main.
Listen to the sirens. Listen to the sirens.
Listen to the sirens.
Listen to the sirens.
It's very subtle stuff when it's layered together, and it was very impressive, especially the part near the end here when he does actual.
I know you wanted to play, but I've always got
aces.
Put your life on the table. A-okay, increase your capital gains. I'll feed you.
That was pretty cool. We'll talk about how the mixing of all this worked out, but it wasn't really a lot because most of what would already happened was done by Josh, so it was pretty easy to work this into the track. Like I said, this was pretty simple. There's not really a huge amount of anything that's happening. There's a couple of hits that happen. I guess this one is already brought down. Yeah. Or not. They don't hear the hit. This volume up goes on. This is what this volume is for. There's a lot of kind of reversing sounding things in this track, and that's a pretty decent theme because it's actually a big part of how the bass was made. We'll cover that when we talk about sound design, but you'll know what I mean when we get there. I use a lot of stuff from the Leviathan sample pack from Black Octopus Sound to these risers. I like the risers. They're basically stuff I would have made anyway. So I didn't make them, but they are certainly good for their purpose. This main part, the "You Can't Stop Me" bit,
You can't stop me.
that's actually my voice. That I made that before I sent this to Josh. I had actually finished this track more or less completely before I even approached Josh, just saying like, "Would you want to do vocals for this track?" Because I wasn't planning on doing vocals, but after I had done the track, I sat here and I realized this needs vocals. It would sound really, really good with vocals. The actual lyric here, this was me again trying to tap into like the sort of the traposphere, where there are vocal samples that lead into parts, and that's the kind of like the hook and that kind of thing. And so I tried to create one myself, and there was a fair amount of sound design that went into creating this. We'll talk about that as well during the part that went in there. But that is me. That's my voice. There's a little arp at the end. Kind of stacks on top of the arp that's already there. That's actually a sound that there was another one. I believe actually it is this one. Only it was more intense before I had recorded the reversed part here, but then it was mostly Josh that decided that it was too much. I agree with him once he pointed it out, so I kept the reverse, but the original source of that reverse has been dampened down to be the shorter version. And I don't think there's anything else I have to point out about this track. One thing that is very interesting about the drums is that the 808 is actually a Harmer resampled sound. So that'll be interesting to talk about when we get to sound design, which is part 2. Yeah. So this is the beginning of the making ofs for all of the RS Silent tracks. After this one, it'll be Steel Core, and then I'm just gonna go right down the list order of the actual album. If you haven't purchased the album or didn't even know I had an album, the link is in the description that you can get it there. You can also get it on iTunes and Amazon and Google Play and all the usual spots, even Beatport if you want waves. If you have any questions about any of this, please let me know, because it'll probably be relevant for something that I would want to answer during the mixing and mastering part or the sound design part, so that they will be considered if you ask them before I make the video. Which, now that I think about it, that won't happen because I'm not even here right now. I'm in Florida. Every video that you're watching in this series and the next one was already done ahead of time, so never mind about what I just said. Still, though, if you got any questions, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day.